Hey guys, what's up? It's Elements here, and today I want to talk about the support items and why I think they need changing, and why I think they need some retweaking for them all to be balanced and viable across the board. Because currently, in their current state, I don't think we have a lot of viable choices, and I'll go through and explain why. So, the first problem I noticed is people are buying Spell Thief and Relic Shield. They're upgrading into Frostfang and Targons, but they're not actually upgrading into Frost Queens and Face of the Mountain in competitive play, at high elo play, just in general play. I mean, you guys can see it for yourself. It's just those two top tier items just aren't that viable compared to Talisman. So what I've been noticing when I've been watching the LCS for the most part is that players will be selling their Targons or their Frostfang and picking up a Talisman because it's only 2,000 gold too, right? So they can, have good laning phase, have good gold generation, and then sell that item and pick up Talisman when it's a little bit safer to do so, right? And I think that's a terrible, terrible tragedy for support items because we're like this close to having support's a fun, cool role, and we're still just that far away at the same time. So let's look and identify these issues more so. So I've broken down. I have a little notepad here thing that I'm reading off of. If you guys can't tell, my eyes do this, but it's a long video, or hopefully not too long. But anyways, I'm gonna get right to the point here. So we starting off. We got Coin, we got Spell Thief, and we got Relic Shield, right? But only 2 out of 3 of those are viable. Obviously, Coin sucks, right? We got Nomads, we got Targons, we got Frostfang. Obviously, Nomad sucks. So only 2 out of 3 are viable. Then we got Talisman, Frost Queens, and Face of the Mountain. Again, only 1 out of those 3 are really viable and used a lot. I actually think Face of the Mountain's almost there. It's so close to being a good item, but I think it needs a little bit more love. And again, I'll talk about that as we go through the video. So let's identify our first issue as Coin's bad, Nomad's bad, and Talisman is weirdly broken with strange stat spikes, mainly the 20% CDR, which just seems kind of out of place on it. So my solution to this is actually to revert the Coin and Nomad nerfs that recently came out in patch 4.3. I believe it was 4.3, or the one before. But anyways, they completely and utterly nerfed Coin and Nomads into the ground because it had too much gold generation, right? Well, Spell Thief and Relic are massively out golding or gold generating Nomad and Coin now. So it's like, well, shouldn't you guys kind of just throw that back and have all 3 of them be viable starting choices? Because that's basically what we have now. We have Relic and Spell Thief being the only viable starting options on support right now. Otherwise, you can get a Doran Shield, but that's okay because they nerfed that too. Or you can get a Ruby Crystal, but even then, it's well, then the other supports who actually get these items and can use it are actually going to outscale me because they're going to have so much more gold. So it kind of has this weird, unfair kind of playstyle right now where, again, only 2 out of 3 are viable. But to even further the point, we saw, I was watching the Gambit versus KTB game, and I actually saw Edward picking up a Relic Shield on Thresh, and that's a ranged champion, and as you know, the execute doesn't really work on it. But he was actually using that because Coin sucks so bad and the Doran sucks so bad that there's really only 2 item choices, and it's either that or Spell Thief. So it's you have this weird conundrum. So how else do we change that other than reverting the changes back so we actually have 3 viable starting item choices for support and not just 2? It kind of pigeonholes you into this weird oh, I'm like Nami, but I'm getting a Spell Thief, or I'm like Janna and getting Spell Thief. You don't maybe want to play it passive, maybe want to be more defensive, but you can't have that playstyle because there just literally isn't the itemization for it right now. So my solution again is to revert the Coin and Nomad nerfs completely, get that item back, and I actually want to change the Talisman and change the recipe on it. This is how I think we fix Talisman, and actually make it feel a little bit better. So the Talisman, I think, should actually have a Kindle Gem added into the recipe. The reason for this is because it can give you a little bit more HP. It gives you 200 HP, and it'll only give you 10% CDR. And I gotta say, having 20% CDR on Talisman just feels wrong, I guess. It feels like way too much of one stat. But when I get it, let's say I'm playing Thresh or Nami again, or like somebody, and I get that item right away, and I'm like, well, I have like a lot of CDR, but I have like no HP. It's just as we. I'm sitting at like 1100 HP, but I'm like, it doesn't feel good to have that item. It doesn't feel like, okay, I have it. It's like great for the team. Team's like, yeah, good job. You got that item. That's a good team item. Yeah, good job. You're a support. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't feel, you know, that good about the stats that I'm getting from this item. I'm mostly getting it because the passive active on it is just so awesome, right? So if we change it up and give it a little bit of HP, not too much, because I know Riot changed the whole recipe beforehand, because the issue was pretty much every top laner before they changed those support items was getting like a Shurilia's, which is what Talisman used to be called, because it gave good, amount of HP, good stats on it, and it would give you the active. Well, if we change it and it's only got 200 HP, it's only got 10% CDR, it's not going to be that great of a choice for all these, bruiser top laners or even some junglers. It's still going to be a predominantly support item, which is what we want, right? So if we don't give it too much good stats, we can actually have it be nice and viable and give, a little bit of HP, a little bit of CDR, not one too much one way or one too much the other, and it will just feel better and play better too. I actually think we should keep the regen on it as well, and I actually think you should bump the passive gold up to 3 or 4 on it. It's currently at 2, but the reason behind this is it's kind of annoying that this item is so strictly prohibited to the laning phase. So that's when you're going to make your gold. Like, if you're getting a tier 3 support item, the laning phase is most likely about to end or already over. So you're not even going to be utilizing all the gold and passive gold that you're supposed to be getting for the item, which is why Frostfang and Targon's just completely outscale and are making so much more gold, because, to be honest, the new coin and nomads and Talisman is just designed very poorly, and I that's my honest opinion on it. Sorry, Riot, if you're watching this video, but I think that's really piss poor design, and I don't think we want to be forcing supports to stay in lane either. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Overall, I think this will completely fix Talisman, Nomads, and Coin, and we should have way better, more viable choices without having such extreme measures on the third tier item. Hope that all made sense to you guys. Trying to keep it going all one take here. So next up we got Spell Thief and Frostfang. These items are amazing. Don't change a thing. Don't you dare change it, right? Love the items, keep them, right? But my problem is the Frost Queen. Frost Queen, on the other hand, is quite underwhelming. The active is clunky, just kind of shoots out this like little, and it's just not that fun to use. It doesn't really do any damage, and again, the line missile is kind of clunky on it. It felt so much better to use Frost Queens when it was the single target spell, like you just click it on a champion and the explosion would explode out of that champion, doing the AoE slow off of it. That felt so much cleaner and better to use, and I actually think that will bump up its viability a lot. I really do think that'll help out exponentially if you keep definitely if you keep the slow on it too. That'll actually make it good for slowing engages or starting engages on supports that want to do this more offensive style, which is what the whole theme of Spell Thief and Frostfang and Frost Queens is supposed to be, like the offensive. So if you read what the Riot when they changed it, it's supposed to be this offensive item that generates lots of gold for all these caster supports. Well, let it be that way then. Buff it up, make the tier 3 actually good so people actually want to buy it. And I actually think the base damage should be bumped up to 120 when you first buy it. I think it should be 120 damage plus 10 per level, making it 300 damage at 18. This is not such a crazy amount of damage early, but it's a good amount of damage for burst and control, and it doesn't make it so the item feels so underwhelming to really say. I think that's really all I think Frost Queens need, those two little changes, and I think it would boost its viability and desirability, exponentially, we'll say. A lot of big words. And that's really my big issues with the Frost Queens, and again, I hope we can see that change coming in the future, and that's what I think should be done. Moving on to Relic and Targons. Both these items, again, amazing. Awesome. You guys, 10 out of 10 job, Riot. Whoever did these items, woo, you're the man. Awesome. Don't change a thing. Again, my problem is the face of the mountain. It's pretty good. It's in the right direction. It knows where it wants to be. It knows what it, you know, all that shit. And um, but I still feel it's a little bit underwhelming. I don't feel that 10% HP on a support to shield somebody is that amazing. Granted, it's 100 extra damage and or 100% of the AD and 30% of the AP, and that's all nice. A little bit of return damage at the end of the explosion. It's whatever, right? It's okay. But I really feel like this item could be 15% of the HP, giving it to the user instead, and that would just feel so much more rewarding than 10%, because even if you have like 3,000 HP on a tank, you're only giving them a 300 shield, and I know that can be comboed with a lot of stuff, but in the grand scheme of things, 300 damage on a single target isn't that amazing. It really isn't. When you look at the power of the other support items or what other items do in the game, it just isn't. It just, again, it just isn't that amazing. So if it was 15%, it would buff it up a little bit more, so it's actually giving a good chunk of HP and a good chunk of a shield, so it feels good to use too. Another idea, instead of getting it 15%, you could keep it at 10%, but give yourself, the user, and your ally to use it on, give it like 15 to 20 MR and armor on it for the duration of the shield, to again give it a little bit more of a boost in the right direction, because again, I feel it's slightly underwhelming, and again, it would put it on par with all the other changes that I feel should happen. Other than the support items, I have a huge, or those, sorry, I messed up there. Other than those three items, I have a huge issue right now that I think is massively being not talked about, brought up whatsoever, and I think it should be like a big fucking deal to a lot of people, is the fact that supports are always underleveled. No matter what, bar none. You cannot disagree with me, because it's a fact of League of Legends. Supports are underleveled 110%. And why? Why is that okay? I'm not happy with that. Are you support players happy with that? Because I am definitely not happy with being underleveled always. It's just not fair. It's not fun, and it's not balanced in my mind either. What I think should be happening here is that the inspiration passive from the utility tree that gives 5 XP every 10 seconds, or 10 XP if you get 2 out of 2 points in it every 10 seconds, to you when you're around a champion of higher level. So again, this wouldn't be like shooting you to level 18 right away. It would just keep you up on par with the other teammates when you actually decide to group up and start team fighting and all that stuff, And the reason is the supports always get behind, because let's think about what happens in the laning phase. Why is your AD carry always ahead? Well, if your AD carry is getting long range CS and you're not in range, you don't get the experience, period. If you're going to ward and the AD carry is still sitting in lane, you're not getting experience. If you go to roam, you're not getting experience. There's lots of things that can happen that prevent you from getting experience and putting you farther and farther behind as the game goes on. You're supposed to have this, warding role where you're around the map, but again, you're not rewarded at all. You're actually punished for doing that by putting yourself even farther behind in levels. And I really don't think that's fair or right or balanced whatsoever. So I think all these items, I think Relic, Frostfang, or rather, sorry guys, Relic, Spell Thief, and Coin should have the 5 XP. I think Targon's, Spell Thief, and Nomad should have 5 XP as well. And I think the tier 3 items should have the 10 XP that makes you catch up even more. So even if you are really behind, you can actually upgrade these to bring yourself up to be in par with other champions on your team quicker. And I think that's a good incentive. I think those are great ideas, honestly, not to toot my own horn, but I really think this needs to happen if we want to see really progressive change in the bot lane. And all this really does is bring in like a new era of viability by buffing these items and actually giving XP across the board, because so much stuff can happen with levels. You guys all should know, if you guys play League at all competitively, levels are such a huge thing. In fact, the only goal right now of bot lane is to hit level 2 before the other two hit level 2, and you just you zone and take control. And that's really like any lane, if you're higher level, you have higher control. So again, I don't think pushing yourself down in levels is by any means a good thing for the game. And Yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say in this vlog. I know that was probably a lot, and hope you guys are still listening for all of it, but this is what I think needs to change with the support items. This is what I think needs to happen for support to really grow as a role and put its, final stamp or seal and make its place into League of Legends, because I still kind of feel like support's the bitch role, and that's an issue for me. I still kind of feel like, well, I'm always going to be under leveled or I'm always going to be under farmed, but again, we don't have to have it like that, right? You can make all of these items awesome, you can make them all balanced and viable, and they wouldn't even hinder the game whatsoever. All it would do is bring another role up to par, which currently support is under par. So if you guys could do that and take these changes into consideration, that'd be awesome. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Post in the comments below. Message me on Twitter, anything like that. Let me know what you think, and that's it for this vlog. Remember to subscribe if you like my videos. Peace out, guys.